Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Rip Off and Duplicate podcast. I'm here today with one of my good friends, Jake, the creative pastor Mendoza. I'm a former athlete, small business owner, and serial entrepreneur. The goal of the podcast is to inform and inspire entrepreneurs who are looking to get started but don't know how. Each week, I am going to highlight ordinary people in our communities. Jake also shoots my podcast. He is one of the creative minds that help me put out this content week after week. Someone who's been in my corner even before we started the podcast, that's always told me like, hey man, we can do this. I think you have a great idea, and really reassured me at a time where I needed reassuring, but from the right people. And he's always been one of those people that I can look up to. So I'm really fortunate for Jake's friendship, Jake's time that him and his team put in with me in order to continue to grow this. And I'm excited for him to share his story, his journey as an entrepreneur with you all as well. So Jake, man, thank you for everything you do for me, and thank you for being here and wanting to be a guest on the show, man. I really appreciate that.
Bro, it's an honor to be here. I've seen so much growth in the episodes that we've shot already. So thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate all the good feedback that you give to me. I feel like you know, for the people whose shows you do produce, that you are a part of the show. Definitely, you're a part of the Rip Off and Duplicate family. You go out of your way to get criticism from people who see your work, so you can get feedback on how we can all improve, which has ultimately been driving me, you know, guys like you, guys like Frank, to continue to do better, continue to show up every day despite what's going on in our lives. And yeah, I appreciate you just being there, man. Like this is awesome.
That means so much coming from you. Thanks, bro.
Man, so before we jump in, a little bit about Jake. Jake is the creative mind behind a lot of podcasts or shows here in the Fresno area. Jake has definitely been a resource to many people who have been looking to bring their ideas to life. He's been trying very hard to provide ways for entrepreneurs and other creative minds to have a space here locally to where we can film and create content and provide value for local people in our little area here. So Jake, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just say, first of all, Katie, I'm blown away by just like how smooth it sounds off the dome. I'm so impressed. You're good at this, bro. You were born for this. A little bit about me. I work at a church, and it's kind of how I got started in the entrepreneurial space. And it's kind of how I got started in networking as well. I'm married. I have 3 kids, with 1 on the way. So about to be a family of 6. That's going to be pretty wild. And I own a film company as well that helps entrepreneurs create content, kind of documentary style.
What's that film company called?
Ascent Film Co.
Ascent Film Co.
Yeah. So I got a little crew, my boy Ethan behind the cams there, monitoring everything. But yeah, it's been quite a journey, man. So
how long have you been here in Fresno?
I was born in Fresno, but I like to say I'm from Arizona. So as soon as I was born here in Fresno, I moved to Arizona where I grew up. Dropped out of high school, and then kind of just like fumbled my way until I was 18. Then I moved back here to Fresno. Nice. And what was life like for you when you moved back here to Fresno at 18? Did you have people, resources? Like what that kind of looked like for you on your journey? Honestly, I was a user, so I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. I was living on the streets of Arizona before I came to Fresno, and then when I got here to Fresno, I do have family out here, but that just kind of didn't work out just because of some of the decisions I had been making. People were really weary to want to help me out, understandably so. So I stayed at the Fresno Rescue Mission for a while until really I found religion. I stayed at the Fresno Rescue Mission. I remember going into this little prayer closet and seeing this picture of white Jesus up on the wall. And I just said, God, if you're real, I'll change my ways, and I'll get clean, and I'll figure out a way to make it up to you. and I'm done manipulating and lying. I was a big manipulator, big liar. And he sent somebody. He put people on my path to help me get back on my feet.
Man.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you first started to get back on your feet?
I was 19.
Nice.
Yeah, so 19. So I went through just a really small, very quick downward spiral from like when I dropped out of high school to then when I kind of cleaned myself up.
Did you ever feel like during that time that like you were gonna die or anything like that?
No, but I did feel like I would be like this forever. Like I would stay at the rescue mission forever. I'd be homeless forever. And I began to become comfortable with that setting, with that lifestyle of just kind of living on the street. And I saw some pretty horrific things. And that was when I decided I got to do something, because I don't. Like, it was a wake-up call. So.
I don't know if we've had this conversation before, but drugs and alcohol have played a tremendous impact on my life and how I view life. Coming from a family where addiction was damn near in everyone, and overcoming those obstacles. You know, I had an uncle 3 years ago that passed away from a drug overdose, and still that it makes me really emotional. Thinking about at times that, you know, there was no one or nothing that he could depend on. So I always feel or have a spot for people who come out of situations like that because they find something, whether it's religion. My grandma was addicted to drugs her whole life, my mom's whole life, and her adult life. And then one day she found God, and wow. The impact that has had on our family, you know, that it's had on my mom, my brother, and I, how we make decisions now, even though it's not, you know, totally cleaned up for everyone.
Yeah.
But just having people who do overcome situations like that make it a lot easier for me to continue to show up in my business, in my life, for those people.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious your thoughts. I know one of your past guests was Sean F. A really great podcast, really awesome young entrepreneur. The dude is a grinder, bro, and I really appreciated that about him. But he kind of alluded to some of the things, like I know on his podcast he likes to smoke weed. Not that I have a personal opinion or anything like that about it. Really, I don't think smoking weed it's for everybody, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's for everybody to decide what's right for them, right? Or how that fits into their lifestyle. So, like, where are you at on some people who think it's okay, or, you know, and then you still having that view of, I hold a special place in my heart for people who have overcome that?
Yeah. So I think on that topic, I am just at that point in my life where I'm at the point where drinking's no longer really that exciting to me as it was when I was 22. I did the whole fraternity thing, but I'm also understanding at that point in my business and personal life, as I'm aspiring to do more and hopefully have a family one day, realizing that certain things that we may not see as an addiction. I know a lot of people don't view weed as an addiction,
right,
or even some binge drinking as an addiction. I recently heard someone speak, and they talked about some of the things that hold us back because we feel like we need them, like nicotine, or having the need to be stimulated all the time. And for me, I'm figuring out that maybe that high that I'm looking for, or that stimulation that I might be needing in that moment, can come from more holistic approaches, like working out. I've been having a great time, you know, becoming physically fit. But to answer your question, I would say that I'm okay with others who do it, but at the same time, I understand that it's probably because it's a compensation. They're trying to compensate for something that they don't have, or whether that they're drinking every day or smoking weed every day and whatnot. They're trying to compensate for either insecurities that they have themselves, the stress that the world is bringing on them, or just life in general. And I'm not saying it's not okay to do those things, but I'm saying everything in moderation for sure. And also to be aware of, the damage that you're doing to others around you who may not be okay with that as well. Like knowing your time and place, but also living in your truth, being who you are authentically as well.
So what I hear you saying is don't be a stumbling block for others, right? And but at the same time, it's like, hey, you're responsible for what you do, and if this is where you feel like you're at in your time, there's no judgment here.
Absolutely. And just understanding that it's like, man, I feel like where I'm at, my entrepreneurial journey requires so much more focus for me to do what I'm doing, to interview the type of guests that I'm doing, that if I had the time to be drinking every day, it would mess up my flow of moving the needle even further. Yeah. So that's why me personally, I'm trying to stay. But even then, I'm agreeing that if I didn't do those things, I'd probably be further ahead.
For sure.
So a lot of people listen to this podcast, who a lot of people probably smoke. They're always, the number one thing they probably say is, man, I should probably take a break from smoking, because if you did, you're going to accomplish more.
I can't imagine how much farther I would be if I didn't. Like, weed was one of the hardest things for me to give up. So when I was in church, first I'm a musician by trade before I'm even a video guy, a filmmaker. When I got saved, the pastor of that church put me on the worship team, so doing music, like in the music ministry, and I was still smoking weed and playing guitar on stage, and it was like weed was the hardest thing for me to give up. And so hearing you say that, I can't imagine how much farther I would be if I would have laid that down a long time ago, because it made me so unmotivated. I see people who smoke all the time and just continue to crush it and kill it, and that's dope. But for me personally, I couldn't even get off the couch, bro. I just wanted to smoke all day. And I think of all the things I could have accomplished, or how much further ahead I could have been. But it's amazing to see that the mess that I made, God still found a way to use it, right?
Absolutely. Man, that's some real powerful stuff. But on your entrepreneurial journey, how has that kind of evolved from you? Have you always, when did you first start doing film? Let's start there. Let's take it back.
Yeah. As our church organization grew, it's a fairly large church, and so a healthy church. I've always believed a healthy church runs more like an organization.
Which church is it, by the way?
It's Adventure Church.
Adventure Church here in Fresno?
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people might know as the church that was trying to buy the Tower Theater. So there's a lot of drama caught up in that. So I moved from the music department to a more of a creative role, photography, videography. So I was put in a position where I had to learn broadcasting, live streaming, but like on a professional scale.
Did you have that experience?
No experience. I had no experience in video, none of that. Photography, none of that. And it was just like, my pastor, who is also kind of my boss, he's probably the closest thing I have to a dad also. He was like, I'm empowering you to figure this out. You're a great networker. And so I need you to use that skill as a networker to reach out to other people and figure out how to make our online production as best as it can be. So I did. So I reached out to some really heavy hitters in the industry, people who are doing cinematic broadcasts very well. And they were just like, yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how easy it is to get help from the people that you hold to such a high standard if you just ask. If you just make the ask, people are more than willing to help. So absolutely. That's what I did, and we built an amazing $100,000 production that now, since we have moved out of the tower, we've scaled down, but still it's an amazing production, building a team. I love being a part of that. And so from that, from being W-2'd at a church, doing a creative role, I had a connection reach out to me and ask, hey, I'm trying to live stream a podcast. Stratton Brown, shout out to Stratton Brown. He's my first client, my business mentor.
Quick interjection.
Yeah.
Stratton actually put me on you.
Okay.
Yeah. Stratton is actually my intro to Jake. Without Stratton telling me like who does his video, this had to be way back when he first started. I was like, who does? He goes Jake, but you gotta be able to afford it. I'm like, oh, all right. So I made that a point. I'm not gonna offer. I know who services I need. I know who services I want.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna approach him till first of all I'm ready. But I feel like I did approach you, let you know that I was interested, and you welcomed me, which even reassured me more to go out and prepare for the role that we both were gonna come into.
Yeah, and so. Strat's a great guy, extremely well connected. I honor him to the nth degree because just the doors that he's opened and the generosity that he's provided me. And this is just a shameless plug. Like if you don't have a business mentor, you need to get one. Absolutely. You need to if you're looking to break through in the entrepreneurial space, you need somebody who is so much further ahead of you to pull you up to where you need to be.
Absolutely.
And so I started doing small jobs for Stratton on the side. And I had just quit another job. I was working at a pharmacy for about 8 years. I was doing that part-time, working at the church. And I had quit my job at the pharmacy, just working at the church. And then I picked up this side gig with Strat. And he started hiring me out every week to do these podcasts, sometimes 2 podcasts a week. And I was making a lot of money, more money than I'd ever made in a week before, right? I was making like $1,200 a month, just, sometimes $1,600 a month just from Stratton alone. And I was like, yo, so I started to pray. I was like, Uncle Sam's going to want his money. I don't know how any of this works. Taxes work. Like, God, what do you want me to do? And God was like, start a business, start an LLC, and so this is what I'm wanting you to do. And if I'd never thought about starting a business, like I always thought, okay, I'll just get a good job, or I'll eventually get a raise at the church, and I'll get a good paying W-2 job. But God had other plans for me, and I still have no idea what I'm doing as far as an entrepreneur. All I know is I have just kept saying yes to Jesus, and I'm so financially blessed, bro. Making more money than I've ever had in my life. And all because I just keep saying yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So how has continuing to keep saying yes impacted your business? Like, did you, when you were 18, 19, you're going through the things that you're going through, like, did you envision this now? Was it hard to envision a future? And then did it have something was it hard for you to envision what you're doing now?
Yeah. This might kind of seem out of left field, but I didn't have a dad growing up. I had 2 moms my whole life growing up, so I had no sort of healthy father figure to instill anything like hard work, drive, goal setting, nothing like that. And so when I was 18, bro, I was just living day to day, hanging out with friends. I stayed home alone a lot growing up. And so that developed this urge in me to really desire companionship. And so we were talking before the podcast, I'm not really that great with small talk, but I'm really great with deep talk. Like as soon as I meet somebody and there's this connection there, I really desire a deep relationship with that person. And so that's what I desired since I was young, because I didn't have anybody to teach me how to work hard. I just desired deep relationship with people. And so that's really played a huge role in where I am today. But once I found the value of having a mentor and the value really of ultimately a father figure and another plug, like fatherlessness is so unhealthy. It's more healthy for you to smoke a pack of cigarettes every day than it is for you to not have a father. Like we need dads in the homes. And that's what I needed. So it wasn't until I had my pastor, his name's Anthony, come alongside me and teach me what it meant to work hard, teach me what it meant to like, yo man, nobody gives a crap how hard things are for you once you're an adult. Like you got to figure it out. And the best way to figure it out is to have a healthy community. And so now where I'm at now, I'm 30 and now I'm just barely starting to see the benefits of like having a goal. Where do you want to be asking myself, where do you want to be in 5 years? Right? Like, you need to at least begin to start thinking about these things if you want to be successful, if you want to set yourself up, your family, for success.
Absolutely. Man, just going off the story you told, I was raised in a single parent household with just me, my mom, and, you know, of course we had a stepdad. I have a twin brother as well. But, you know, as a young kid who grew up in a fatherless household, just relying on the strength of a young parent is stress in itself, you know. And as a young man, being the oldest of 3 siblings, you know, you put a lot of pressure on yourself that a man should have. But
what do you feel like the biggest thing that your mom struggled with raising you, or how you had? So you have a twin brother. Mm-hmm. You have any other siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger sister and then a younger brother.
What do you feel like the biggest thing that you saw your mom struggle with raising all you guys?
Man, the biggest struggle besides money, I don't really even think as a kid we noticed that money was an issue. Right. Everybody in our community was like, this is normal for everyone.
I either have it or I don't.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I watched my mom work so hard to, like, I've never experienced, I've been hungry, but I've never experienced hunger, you know. So my mom has always done a great job of supporting us, putting food on the table, showing up every day. And that's where I feel like I get a lot of my hard work and resilience from, is because I watched someone bust their ass, show up every single day, go to work, do things that they didn't want to do because they had people to take care of. And just me keeping that same mindset into the things that I do in life, like knowing I got a mom who works hard, that, you know, I want to take care of, to me it's a need. I don't want to, I need to do this. Wow. So accepting that responsibility as a young man and making those things happen and assuming that role of, you know, man of the house, or sharing that with my brother, a role that, you know, I feel a lot of times I didn't really get a chance to be a kid because I was too focused on trying to be a man or focused on what that looked like. But luckily, just like you have Anthony, I had men come into my life who recognized, like, man, this kid is working hard. He's only 11. You know, he's taking the bus to Pop Warner football practice because he's got NFL dreams. And realistically, you know, getting to college is a blessing for him anyway. So let me show him that route. I had a lot of great mentors. One that comes to mind, a guy named John Allstat. John took my brother and us in. And I really think we had uncles and stuff that were teaching us how to be a man. But he really had a time where the world was bad, real estate market 08's down. He's a real estate agent. He's taking in kids.
Dang.
You know, he's taking in kids. He's feeding them chicken and rice. And it wasn't much. We didn't realize that we went from one situation to another.
Wow.
But he cared. He showed us love, compassion, grace, stuff that I didn't get to see in a house with no father in the picture. So I really feel blessed to have the opportunity that someone was able to, you know, pick me up and provide me love and care at that time. And now I know how to show my siblings love and care, my mom love and care.
That's good.
You know, and so now as a kid, I felt like I used to dwell on not having a dad a little bit bigger, you know, football games, looking in the crowd sad. But now as an adult, I'm kind of like, I was prepared by all these men to be the best influence, best person, best leader, and show everyone love, you know, that I come across.
Well, it's innate. It's woven into the very fabric of our being to long for our father, right? And I'm not over spiritualizing. Like, we long to have our dad, like you said, we long to have our dad there at our games. We long to have our dad pick us up from school. It's just the way that we were designed, right? And so when we get to miss out on that, it's like we're at a deficit. Right? Me and you were at deficits once we turned 18, right? Like, we had a lot of catching up to do, and we probably still do, you know, as fatherless kids. But I think we also have a leg up because we can identify other fatherless kids quicker than other people, and we can take them under our wing.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like I had friends who had both parents in the household. and their parents were just great influences to me, whether it was, their marriage. And when you get older, you come to find out, like, maybe things in that household weren't as it seemed. But man, they were still showing everybody love, and just knowing as I'm older, being able to realize that it really did take a village to turn me and mold me into the man that I'm in.
It does take a village.
Especially you as a dad now. How does your experiences as a young adult, like now you have children, are you overly caring? Like, what's your experience like as a dad?
Full disclosure, bro, no. Being loving and caring is something I have to work really hard at.
Same.
Because I'm an only child. I credit a lot of my dysfunction not only to being a fatherless, and also personal responsibility. I don't want to neglect that. Like, once you're 18, like, ignorance at some point is no excuse. Like, either way, I'm also at a deficit because I have very poor family dynamic. So I didn't have any siblings. I didn't know what it meant to share. I didn't know what it meant to suck it up and go the extra mile for your brother and sister in their time of need, even though, you're not on really great terms. And so now that I work at this, the church that I work at, we have what's called like a lead team. It's basically like an executive team, right? And it's about, I want to say 16 people on that team. And these are people that I have known longer than anybody else. I've had a relationship with longer than anybody else in my life. And I'm closer to them than I am with, my own flesh and blood. And it is so hard. And it operates like a family. And it's so hard to think about. It's so hard to operate in a healthy family dynamic. So when I make a decision, usually I don't think, how does my decision affect everybody else in my family? How does me not getting what I need to get done affect my brothers and sisters, right? Because if I drop the ball, then it affects everybody else's schedule and they have to overcompensate in some way, right? And so with my kids, to answer your question, with my kids, I have to fight tooth and nail to put them before me. And it's a struggle, bro. It's a struggle, but I will say it is extremely rewarding because when I look at my kids and the way that my kids treat me, I see that as the same way that I treat God. And so my kids are a really great indicator of where I'm at spiritually and how my relationship is with God. And I get to see, I also get to take opportunities, and this might sound weird, but everything here on earth, especially in the family dynamic, like on earth, is a type and a shadow of the spiritual and like our relationship with God, right? And so the way that God has shown me grace and compassion and love is the same way I should show grace and compassion for my kids. And so when my kids, when my kids do something stupid for the 20th time, and I want to spank the crap out of them or yell at them or shake them and just be like, why can't you get this? I think about all the things that I'm still messing up on for the 20th time, and God is still showing me grace. And so I really rely on my relationship with God to help me learn and be the father that my kids need.
As an adult, how do you heal from past relationships or experiences that you've been with, in order to continue growing in life and spirit and like spirituality? How do you continue to grow, especially when you've had experiences that may be uncommon or unnatural for others?
I would say practically the three things that you want is, you want a healthy community, right? You want a healthy community where people are pursuing health in general. So for me, that's my church community. Two, you need like a spiritual mentor, like a pastor or somebody who is like up there. They know their Bible. They have life experience, right? And they don't just have a bunch of head knowledge, but they have a ton of wisdom. And then you need a therapist, bro. I'm big on therapy. I'm really big on psychotherapy.
Does therapy and spirituality, can people kind of get that mixed up?
Oh, for sure. It's really taboo in the church. It's really taboo. But sometimes a deliverance prayer isn't going to work out the 25 years of childhood trauma that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, all your trauma comes from, your daddy or your mama. And sometimes there is a certain setting that you need to be a part of or engage with in order to be freed from trauma, or in order to sort your trauma. And so I believe that God makes those things. God can use any setting that he wants to. So it can be, you can have a therapist who's really good at their job but doesn't believe in God, and God will use that setting in order to help you work through some of your crap. I'm a firm believer in that. And then there's things that can only be done in the church, right? There's things that you can only be revealed through a spiritual revelation. And so, but it is taboo in some church cultures, like, oh, you're seeing a therapist, you're not trusting in God, or, and I just think that's complete BS. Sometimes, like, the church is a hospital, but in some cases the church isn't a surgery room, and I think that's what therapy is.
And some people need surgery.
Some people need surgery, bro.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you touched on that, because I know, a few people in my life who have, from what I take it as, went from one extreme to another.
Like in what way?
Like went from living life the wrong way, but without really healing those things. But they may find God or a certain group, and they connect to those things, which is great that they do connect. But it's like when they get upset, you can kind of see them go back to kind of, what they haven't healed from.
They're operating out of those childhood wounds. Bro, to this day, I struggle with it. I think the biggest thing I struggle with is offense, is taking everything personal. And I think that stems from being an only child and really having to raise myself. And so, 100%. You can find a great community, but your journey through, like, healing through your trauma and all those past experiences is going to be lifelong, bro. I'm still working through my crap.
How are you learning to not take offense to, like, whether it be criticism or things people say? Like, I know you're very passionate about what you believe in. How do you like learn to coexist with your business and also your belief system? That's a great question, bro. So the first part of your question, how do I learn to not take offense or to take everything personal, is I have to rely. I'm a very logical thinker, but I also acknowledge that there's a very spiritual aspect to reality. And so if I'm thinking logically, I'm thinking, what's my relationship with this person, right? Do they want to see me be better? Is the relationship toxic to begin with? It's not like I'm asking myself all of these through these questions, but I try to believe that people also believe the best in me. And so when somebody comes to me and they're just like, hey, bro, this is awful, and we really got to fix it. What I first hear is, Jake, you're awful, and this is bad. But that's not what they're saying, right? A lot of people say, like, oh, it's not about what you said. It's about how you said it, right? But really, it's about what was heard. And that's really and a lot of times that's really not on the person who's giving the feedback. And so I need to be like, okay, what's the goal here? Right? Our goal is to create this project. Our goal is to get this thing done. And the way that it was handled was not good, and it just needs to get fixed, right? The big picture is, we got to fix this thing. The big picture isn't, you suck and you're not the right person for the job, because if you weren't, you probably wouldn't be in that position anyway. And so I rely on, what's my relationship with this person? Do they believe the best? Do they love me? Do they value what I do? I think the answer to those questions is yes. So they're probably not trying to tear me down. They're probably just like, hey, we need to get this done. How quick can you recognize, like, when someone is giving you, how quick can you recognize the type of feedback someone is giving you?
Honestly, it used to take me a really long time. But I would say practically, the longer the conversation goes, I'm able to get past those initial emotions. I'm emotionally intense, and so I immediately take something personal, and a fire is immediately lit in me. But as I can, over time, I can just be like, I can ask myself those questions. I can step outside of my emotion. There's this really great book, I forget who the author is, it's called Master Your Emotions. And a lot of the times we use words like I'm angry or I'm frustrated, I'm depressed, whatever, right? Insert whatever word you want to, but really you're not. You're experiencing anger, but really what you are is you are what remains after you've experienced anger, right? Anger comes and goes,
like that.
Depression comes and goes, everything. And you're what remains after those things have come and gone. And so really what's helped me to see the best in those situations and those feedback conversations is I separate myself and create distance between the emotion that I'm feeling and I don't identify with it.
Can you give me an example about how a person can do that?
Yeah, so it's really about practically asking yourself the question, and it's you're retraining your mind, right? Like, I'm so frustrated. No, I'm not frustrated. I'm not my emotions. Like, I am Jake, and I am what remains after frustration has come and gone, right? Like, I have to really tell myself that I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm not depressed. I'm experiencing these things now, and it's going to go, and I'm going to have a clear head pretty soon. Right now, I can acknowledge that I'm feeling depressed. There's nothing wrong with that. Depression's real, but I'm not depression. I don't identify with that emotion as it's a part of my identity. Like, I know where my value and where my worth comes from. Just right now in this moment, it's a little hard for me to see that, and that's okay. Maybe some people just need more time than others.
Did you understand that, like, when you're going through those tough times did you understand that you were more than those tough times? I feel like when I've been through some of the things that I've been through in life, that I have one of those, like, moments where it's to sit down with myself where I have to really get grounded and understand that I'm way more than this situation or this moment in my life. Like, have you always felt that you were more than a situation or more than the moment, that you had more to give to your friends, yourself, your family?
No, I haven't always felt that way. It wasn't until it really comes back to being fatherless and having an absent father. And this isn't, I keep referencing that. I think it's because of my biggest growth point. And it's in that situation of not having a dad where I've realized the value of a dad. So this isn't here to bash my dad. I mean, we have a decent relationship. But I would always, so growing up without a dad, you don't have, like, dads instill certain things into their kids that only a father can. Like, only. Like, my hat's off to the single moms. Single moms is probably the hardest job in the entire universe, bro, because they have to set aside a feminine role. They have to set aside being a mom, and they have to play their role as a dad. And then these moms lose their femininity. They lose the nurturing nature that they provide to their sons and their daughters, right? And so that's why, like, you have these moms who are, like, physically abusive. Like, my mom beat the hell out of me when I was younger because my mom also had to be dad. And so it was me learning the value that a dad provides that I'm able to really make up for this deficit. And so because my dad wasn't around, circling back to your question, there was nobody there to tell me that I had value as a son. My value, because there was nobody there to tell me that I had value as a son, then my value was found in the things that I was good at. I was good at music. I was good at art. I was good at creativity. I was good at public speaking. I was great at video games, right? Everybody's a king of video games in their own mind, right? But my identity was mainly found in the things I just naturally was good at. And then once somebody critiqued something that I was good at, it was an attack on my identity, right? But I'm not, at the end of the day, like, all of my art, everything that I do, everything I create is going to burn. It's all going to burn. When I die, like, chances of somebody remembering are very low, right? Or eventually nobody will remember, and I'm okay with that, right? Because now I know what my identity and my worth is found in.
And what is your identity and worth found in?
That I'm created to love God. I am created to be loved by the creator of the universe. Like, the one who set reality in motion and makes everything the way it is desires a relationship with me. And I have learned, and I'm still learning, that provides the most value out of anything. Like, and he provides me these avenues to make an impact on people. Like, absolutely. I'm not Bible thumping over the head or nothing like that. Like, because I've received value from the, one of my favorite preachers uses this quote. His name's Tim Keller. And he's like, we don't just want praise from anybody, because that just simply doesn't suffice. We want praise from the praiseworthy, right? You think about all these people who are like, I don't really care what people think about me, right? But the people that you care about, the people that you idolize and value, you want the praise from those people, right? And there is nothing more valuable and there's nothing more meaningful than, in my opinion, the praise and the adoration and the attaboy from God.
Absolutely. At what moments in your life have you experienced those like attaboys from God? Like, have there been moments in your business where you're just interacting with someone, it's been such a good interaction, and you're like, you know, without God, like maybe this interaction wouldn't have came, or because of God, this happened?
I try to treat my business like it's not mine, because I'd never wanted to start a business anyway. And so I was in the infancy stages of my business. Well, I guess I still kind of am. I guess in the zygote stages of my business, I was asking God, how much do I charge each person? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. How much do I charge? Just tell me what I need to say and tell me how to go about this situation. And really what that did for me is it took all the pressure off of me, because I'm already so solid and solidified in my faith and what I believe, that because I believe God wants to speak to each and every person. Like, there's a person, and I think that's what really separates Christianity from every other religion is the Christian God is a very personal God, and he desires relationship. I don't really enjoy the Christianity is not a religion, it's a relationship.
Okay, I was just gonna ask
it's just very cheesy, but that's what separates is God is very personal. You can look at every other religion in the world, and the main deity is not a personal God. Anyway, so then he started to kind of give me the blueprint after I was able to like follow through with what he asked me. And well, I just had a recent experience where I had a client reach out to me and ask me to come out of town for several days. I needed to be gone the whole week, from Sunday basically to Saturday. And I gave him a quote on this job, and he was like, hey, I don't know if that's in my price range. I said, hey, it's totally fine. I completely understand. Let me know if anything changes for you, or we can work something out where I only do half the time. And he was like, well, I need somebody for the whole time. So it ended up not working out, and it was a lot of money, this job that I quoted them for. And then that week, so I ended up not taking that job. And then the day before, around the same time this job that he reached out to me for was supposed to occur, I had this last minute person for a client who I'd done work with one time reach out to me, and they were like, hey, can you show up tomorrow and do this? We'd like for you to film this. And I was like, ooh, it's tomorrow, what do you need, blah blah blah. And they were just like, we just want to document this experience. And so I was like, okay. So I ended up I try to go above and beyond for all my clients. So I hired out a drone guy. This guy, shout out to Archer Arrow, Drone Solutions. He's an Emmy Award winning drone flyer. He's amazing. And then we booked a couple other shoots, but I made the same amount of money on one shoot than I would have in the whole week. And I think it was because I stayed faithful to what I felt like God was asking me to do. Because I asked God, like, hey, I've never been out of town for a whole week before. What am I supposed to do in this situation? And then it was like, because I had to say no to this week-long job, even though it was a lot of money, I felt like God understood that I was being faithful with this. So he was able to give me a even better job in a shorter amount of time. And so I really felt blessed by that, because I was able to say no and be obedient to what he was asking me to do. I was rewarded or blessed in a sense, right? So it's like the Bible teaches this principle, like if you're faithful with a little bit, then God can trust you to be faithful with a lot of things. And that's one thing I really realized is stepping into the entrepreneurial space is I believe that entrepreneurs, the most successful ones, have tapped into a biblical principle that, again, is using this term woven into the fabric of reality. Like, we have laws of gravity, right? We have Newton's law, all these things, but there are biblical principles that God's woven into reality. And one of those is the stewardship of money. Like, my business mentor, Strat, believes in the tithe. Like, I give away 10% of my money to a cause I really believe in. And Strat, I don't know if he's the most religious guy in the world. I don't think he's religious at all, but he believes in a biblical principle, and I see him crushing it. It's because God, whether you believe in him or not, if you steward money well, God gives you more money.
Absolutely.
And for his purpose and his glory, whatever it may be. And so I see all the most successful entrepreneurs handling their money extremely well. And that's why they're so wealthy.
And just to piggyback off that a little bit, even in my journey as an entrepreneur, I'm looking to and for other men who are on similar journeys that I am. You know, I had mentioned earlier, I had lost my uncle a few years ago, and that really affected my relationship that I had with God or on a spiritual level. Wow. It affected my whole level of thinking. But where I was going with this is, when you have men that are guided by faith or some type of spirituality, and you kind of pick up patterns that, you know, they are abiding by rules or guidelines that may not be written, but they still know how to ask for help when they need to. They're still higher beings other than themselves that they go and they look for answers to, whether it's something that they're trying to learn from themselves. They're usually seeking out some type of yogi or some type of mentor, but they're at the same time, I understand that they're looking for faith. They're looking for something to have faith in, or something to, you know, hold them or give them direction. And so for me, like, even though there may be times where I feel like I'm at a disconnect with God or my faith, I never really feel completely disconnected, because I always know that there's someone who loves me, cares about me, or, you know, who's just there to listen, even if I don't believe it. You know, everyone's had those moments where they're just praying, and it's the act of you speaking and there being someone on the other side who's just there listening. And the comfort that you feel, doesn't matter if you're spiritual or not, but that's a comforting moment for anyone. And so, you know, I look for my mentors, people who have that kind of faith, faith in themselves, faith in a higher being. But like, it always worries me when people have all that faith in themselves, because I know the weight that it takes to carry all that, and I know I can't carry it alone.
That's good.
If that makes sense.
What do you feel like you're learning from one of your mentors right now?
I think the biggest thing that I'm learning from my mentors right now is to just trust the process, trust the plan. I know it's been said a lot for a lot of people, but I feel like when you're at a young age and social media is what it is, I feel like you can have it to provide value, but I also think that it can provide a false sense of reality. But I think that trusting the process of knowing myself, I think the best thing that I've done ever since I really stopped going out to clubs and partying, and not saying it was wrong, but I learned so much about myself that these mentors were trying to teach me that I would have never had the ability to learn if I didn't take those moments for myself. So understanding that it's all a process, and to not rush that, and to meet myself exactly where I'm at, just as I expect of other people, allows me to bring out the most authentic version of myself, which is what I'm, striving to be, is the best version of myself, the best man. So
is that something like more recent you've been learning, or is that something that you've kind of like a season you've been kind of in for a while?
I'd say after I graduated college, towards the end of college.
When was that?
I think 2019.
Gotcha.
My brother had just left. All my friends had just left. Like, kind of my real estate business wasn't doing what it needed to do. A lot of negative influences, people around me, to where it's just, I felt consumed by the pressure, And not only did I have no money, but I was like was mentally alone. And so I started looking for those communities or places to where I can find myself or start doing this work. Like COVID was the best thing that ever happened for me. Going on lockdown forced me to like look myself in the mirror.
Wow.
And I was working at Amazon at the time, and Amazon sucked ass. Anyone who's ever driven for Amazon before, you got all that time. I'm speaking to everybody who's ever done Uber Eats and they're spending all that time in the car. I would spend my days at Amazon with my headphones plugged in, hating my job, that I wasn't living in my purpose. I should have been doing something. But at the same time, I knew it was where I had to be in that moment. So I would just plug in 8 hours a day. I would listen to 6 podcasts, take notes on everything, then figure out the next day how I can implement some of these things in my daily life. And so I feel like ever since then, it's kind of been a compounding effect on, okay, I know how to do this. This guy's provided me with the skills. We've had this conversation. I see the way it's impacted me now, becoming more physically fit again, stopping all the drugs and alcohol. Like, basically having that clarity and time to myself was all I needed to make that jump, understand who I wanted to be, who I was, who I am. So I could really, like, for the first time in my life, I could really say that I'm like living happily in my passion and my purpose, serving others, providing values to others. And I'm enjoying it. I love it. Things might not be great, with work or money, but I know this is my purpose. This is my passion. And I know to show up for it every day is a blessing for someone else. And I value that.
I love that. That Amazon story, that's awesome.
Yeah, Amazon. So I keep my uniform. I keep the hat. I keep the vest that they gave me. And for one, yes, I use it as a Halloween costume when I need to. But like, man, it taught me hard work. It taught me never to do things that sometimes you will have to do the things that you don't want to do in order to get where you want to go. A lot of people can't do that.
That's the crushing right there, bro.
Man,
those tough seasons are going to work something out of you. So my mentor says that we don't use in our organization, in our church, we don't use people to get the job done. We use the job to get people done. So, and that's what Amazon did for you, bro, is Amazon worked something out of you, and it worked a lot of crap into you, bro.
Absolutely.
Not crap, but it worked a lot of things into you to help you become the man you are.
Absolutely. I was working at Amazon, and from listening to all their podcasts, entrepreneur stuff, I ended up starting my small business. Yeah, I own a party rental business, St. Cal Water Slides. And having the ability to be disciplined, to learn the things from that podcast, to save up that money, to go buy my equipment.
What podcast was it?
I was listening to everything. Millionaire Mindset has been a great podcast for me as an early entrepreneur, just to kind of hear how the different shit everyone was doing. So that was a good one for me. Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness, has really been a great podcast for me. And those are really the two I tap into the most. Because they bring in guests who talk about a bunch of things as well.
Right.
But having the ability to put in practice from the things I was listening to allowed me to start my business. Started my business for $5,000 3 years ago. Made all that back, of course, the first 2 years, and then growing within entrepreneurship, within my role in that business. And then now I'm getting ready to sell that business and, step in a lot of money at one time. And I'm very proud of that. But if it wasn't for those experiences, it would have never got me to like doing this podcast and sharing my journey with other people. And that's the part of why I call it rip off and duplicate, because I feel like I was trying to recreate the wheel when all I really needed to do was go to work for a little bit, save up, put that money into action, and then whether it's a side hustle, continue to work so I can work my way out of that current season that I was at.
That's so good.
What's one element of your business or your life right now that's kind of surprising you?
The amount of money I'm making. If I'm being 100% honest.
Is it a blessing? Is it a curse? Like, how do you feel about money? Like, was money always? Have you always had a good relationship with money?
No. Like I said, I didn't have a really great mentor. Anybody like my mom was very financially illiterate, and kind of just like, you know, when we got that paycheck, we went out to eat, we went to the movies. That's what we love to do. When she got paid, we blew it all. And then, so I didn't really have a good blueprint or role model to show me how to make your money work for you, how your money should be managed, because money is really just a resource, right? And so it wasn't until I started taking basic principles to handle money, how to do a budget, right? And then I really actually, when I started my business, I was recommended this book, Profit First.
Oh, yeah.
And so Profit First really helped me see where my money is going, because a budget, like a zero-based budget, I don't like Dave Ramsey, bro. He can take his zero-based budget and he can go somewhere with it.
Dave Ramsey did help. Dave Ramsey did help me save my first $1,000. Did he, bro?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Those baby steps. After that, forgot all about it.
Gotta give him a little bit of credit, but Profit First really helped me see where my money is going on like a big picture scale. It's just like, okay, I make $1,000 off of this job. I know I'm personally getting $500, right? 15% of that is going to Uncle Sam. 1% is going into a profit account, and then the 34% is going into my business expenses. And that's what I have to operate my business off of. And so it's really helped me become disciplined, or at least weary about what I spend my money on. I love to eat out. I eat Chipotle like 7 times a week, bro. Chipotle guy. And so, but also having people in my corner and just kind of like falling back on that principle of like, if I'm faithful with a little, then I can be faithful with a lot. And so, my goal was to make $70,000 this year. Bring in $70,000 from my business. I've already crushed that.
Damn, that's exciting.
Yeah. And I've never made. I think the most I've ever made from W-2 was like $32,000.
Damn. Yeah. So that's life changing for you.
It is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I mean, like, and I believe, bro, I can make $1 million. I believe it. Absolutely. Like listening to one of the past podcasts that you had on, they talked really about if you kind of believe in your mind, I think it was Corbin. Like if you can truly identify with a goal and be like, I believe this is achievable for me, your actions will kind of supplement that, and like you will do the things that will push you in that direction, right? And that's when I always thought mindset was a really big joke, but it's true, bro. Like the mind is a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
I read Profit First because the first year in my business that I ran my business, I was like, dude, I made all this money, but where is it at? And I was telling myself that I was reinvesting it into the business. And granted, I did, but even then, you should still have some money left over. You're running a business.
You're in a business to make more money.
Yeah, you're in a business to make money. And at the end of it, I was like, it didn't really happen. I got some equipment, but I'm not really paid. Everybody else is paid, but I'm not really paid.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like went back to the drawing board, and I was like, what can I read or what can help me? And then everyone was talking about profit first. So I tried it year 2. Year two, I went absolutely insane. And then year 3, I don't even want to work anymore. I just want to sell the thing. I'm like, dude, I just want to touch a little bit on constantly educating yourself as an entrepreneur, constantly, being able to grow within your current role, your current field, your current expertise. Like, I get a lot of comments on the podcast how good it is, and here you are continuing to grow within your field and role every day, and the content material looks good, but you also have that preparation that's keeping you prepared to do the kind of work that you want to do and show up for people as well.
I 100% agree. Educate. Never stop paying for education. Never stop paying for that course. Here's the thing, though. A lot of people do buy courses, and they go about 15% of them, and then they go buy something else they think will help them. Bro, commit to the education and go through the full thing, and then move on to the next one. Like, implement what you've learned from the first one before going, because then you're just not being a good steward of your money.
Absolutely. Do you have any advice for any other creatives, video producers, content creators to allow them to keep on creating content? Like, what's some advice that you can share with them?
For creatives specifically, read the book. It's called Steal Like an Artist. I forget who wrote it, but he exploits this view that nothing is original. or maybe exploit's not the right word, but he really hammers in on this point that nothing is original, everything is inspired from something. So stop focusing so much on how you can create something that nobody else is doing, because somebody else is always doing it better, right? But what you can do is you can take a little bit of you into something that you've really ripped off.
I need to read this book.
And that's what makes it original, because you are the uniquely you, right? And so for creatives, the problem with creatives is that we want to do everything. We're so gifted in a lot of different things, and we want to try everything. So I think people who are like have a very heavy creative bent are really good starters. So they start projects with a lot of passion, and they start projects with a lot of momentum. And then once it's kind of like reaches a point where it begins to like plateau or sustain momentum, not even build momentum, but sustain its current momentum, they want to move on to something else because they're bored. And so I think in order to keep things fresh, in order to keep those creative juices flowing, you have to constantly be looking at what other people are doing and admiring the greatness, admiring the art. How can I take what they're doing? What do I like about what they're doing? And how can I implement it in what I'm doing? Right. And so, and I do that all the time. Anytime I go out to a gig, and there's other, in the space that I work in, there's a lot of other videographers on set. And so I look at what they're doing. I look at the shots they're creating, how they're handling their clients in a certain way, visually, what that looks like, and how can I add what they're doing into what I'm already doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I definitely got to check out that book. So if you got a physical copy of that, let me know, because I don't really I still like an artist, but I try. Even the idea for this show here came from me watching Lewis Howes and wanting to put my own twist on it for my own audience, and realizing that there is people that Lewis can connect with, but there's people that I can connect with that maybe he can't reach right now. Right. So really, when starting on this journey, I got from Stratton. The one thing that I did get from Stratton and Millionaire Mindset podcast, shout out to Xavier, is to continue posting. Keep posting. Keep being creative. If it's something that you enjoy to do, something that you're passionate about, just keep going. Because a lot of times what's stopping most people is the fact that they haven't gotten started or that they stop too soon. So
gotcha.
Continue to go, continue to post, anything you need to post, and continue to get after it. Jake, one last question for you before we wrap up. I've been thinking about this question. If you can go back and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him?
Bro, you're gonna make me cry. I tell myself a lot, but if there was one thing that I could tell myself, dang man, there's so many. I mean, I don't even know if half of what I would say would mean anything to my 18-year-old self in that moment. And I think what's coming to mind right now is hey, there's a God out there who loves you, and he doesn't shame you for any of the things that you've done or any of the things that you've gone through. He just wants you to come home. And there's no shame and there's no guilt. Just come home and maybe tell them how to get plugged into a local church.
Man, that was beautiful. Yeah. That was beautiful. I feel like so many people could resonate with your message. So many people have been at, moments of your life of where you've been, or just even had that feeling. So I appreciate you for coming on here, sharing your story, sharing your talents, your gifts with us. And we're glad that you found a home, and we're glad that you're able to share your expertise with us. And I appreciate you for everything you do for me with the show and personally as well. It's always good talking to you, man.
Love you, bro.
Love you too, man.